Hey there, this is Teagarden with episode 71 of the Unveiled podcast. My mission is to strengthen women in their walk with God and their marriage by unveiling what might be going on behind the scenes. Thanks for joining me today. You know, divorce is all too prevalent today. Too many families are breaking apart. And marriage, I believe, is one of God's sacred covenants. So we need to fight for our marriages. This today is the beginning of a series on fighting for your marriage. It is a battle. Now, imagine if there was someone out there that wanted you and your husband to break up. They made it their life's mission to separate you. They were constantly working against you to that end. Wouldn't you want to know about it? Wouldn't that make you fight all the harder to keep your husband? Well, I hate to say this, but there is. And I'm not trying to be overly dramatic, but Satan, the enemy of our souls, hates marriage. He wants you to break up, and he works to that end in your life. Why? Because Satan wants to destroy us. He is looking for the easiest way to encourage us to self-destruct. And if he can drive a wedge between a husband and a wife, then he can feed it and watch the marriage self-destruct, sometimes followed by the kids and adults as well. Divorce affects everyone in the family, not just the couple. So for Satan, it's kind of a 2-for-1 deal, so to speak. Now, I am not here to rail against divorce in any way. I just want to point out that we've got to be alert to the tactics of the enemy. We must fight back. God has a purpose for your marriage. He knows that you can do more together than separately. He knows that 2 parents are better than 1. And so does Satan, and therefore his mission is to divide you. Knowing your enemy in this war is paramount. And it's in fighting any battle, you have to know that. And in the battle for your marriage, you have to know who your enemy is. And it is not your spouse. Ephesians 6:12 says, "For our struggle is not against flesh and blood, but against the rulers, against the authorities, against the powers of this dark world, and against the spiritual forces of evil in the heavenly realms." Our battle is not really against our spouse or any human for that matter. Our battle is against the spiritual forces of the dark world. Now you may be thinking, my husband is mean to me or distant or whatever. Okay, he may be, but was he that way when you married him? Or has the enemy driven a wedge between you? If you continue to fight your husband, you're going to drive a larger and larger wedge. And if you continue to nurse and hurt resentment, you're going to build a bigger and bigger wall between you. However, if you start getting mad at the real enemy and what he's trying to do, instead of fighting your spouse, your energies will be channeled in the right direction. Or better yet, get your spouse on board and fight together. I believe that one of the biggest obstacles to marriage reconciliation is spouses digging their trenches, putting up their barricades, and fighting each other. Seeing each other as the enemy is not good to build friendship or romance, and it never leads to healing. It's easier, I know, to fight an enemy that's right in front of you and is the one causing the hurt. It's harder to recognize the unseen enemy, but he's real. 1 Peter 5:8 and 9 affirms this. "Be alert and of sober mind. Your enemy, the devil, prowls around like a roaring lion looking for someone to devour." If an enemy was trying to harm your children, you would fight to the death. Your mama bear instinct would go into attack mode. No one messes with my children. You have to understand that the enemy is harming your children by messing with your marriage. So you've got to fight back. Don't give up. Don't wallow in self-pity. Don't look to your children for fulfillment and pull away from your spouse. Protect your children by protecting your marriage. And remember, your marriage needs to last a lot longer than your parenting years. As one marriage speaker says, your marriage is a permanent assignment, but children are a temporary assignment. Fight for your marriage. Kick the enemy out of your house. How do we fight this enemy? First and foremost, stay alert, like the Bible verse said. Next, resist him. 1 Peter 5 continues in verse 10 saying, "Resist him, standing firm in the faith." James 4:7 affirms this battle plan. It says, "Submit yourselves then to God. Resist the devil, and he will flee from you. That's not that complicated. Submit our lives to God, follow and obey him, and when the enemy comes prowling around and tempting us, resist him, and he will run away. And it really works. Like this: when you are tempted to anger, resist. When you are tempted to be offended, resist. When you are tempted to say something ugly, resist. When you are tempted to hold on to resentment, resist. When you are tempted to retaliate, resist. Ephesians 6, that told us that our struggle was not against flesh and blood, but against spiritual forces, continues with this in the verse 13. Therefore, put on the full armor of God, so that when the day of evil comes, you may be able to stand your ground, and after you have done everything, to stand. So stand firm, stand your ground. Tell the enemy that he may not have your marriage. He may not have your children. He may not have your mind or your heart. Put on the armor of God. Protect your mind and heart from his schemes. You can look in Ephesians 6, and it describes the armor in detail. And lastly, understand your enemy and his tactics. Jesus called him the father of lies. John 8:44 says, when he lies, he speaks his native language, for he is a liar and the father of lies. So evaluate your thoughts about your spouse. Are they true? Really? Or could they be a lie of the enemy? There's an easy way to tell. Ask God, is this true? Is my husband really a jerk, or is he just stressed or mad at me? Then listen for God's answers. Most of our problems in our lives begin in our mind. And I've talked about this a lot in the past because it's so important to understand. It's foundational. You can't change your life until you change your thoughts. So change your thoughts, change your life. I was just telling this to my daughter even today. Episodes 62, 46, and 3 through 12 all deal with this idea of guarding our minds from the lies of the enemy. Once you start evaluating your thoughts in light of God's thinking, you'll start to see how many things aren't helpful or maybe even true. Over the next few episodes, I will talk more about how to fight for your marriage, but today's goal is to encourage you to engage in the battle and see it for what it really is, a fight against Satan, not your husband. Rise up, woman of God, and take back what is yours. Fight for your husband, fight for your marriage, fight for your family, fight for your children. And remember that God is more powerful than the enemy, and he's on your side. So take courage. If this encouraged you, please share this message with others. That's it for today. Go in joy and peace.